So if you put, say, for instance, a magnetic ion in the tunnel junction, and you have a real tunneling, and you have a tunneling process that things jump through this magnetic state, or this magnetic state, it points up or points down, or points with respect to the electrode, that's an important issue. Another thing is that you can think of externally tunable barriers. You can think of a barrier that you stick in there that you can actually tune externally. What I mean by that is you can change the barrier height maybe externally. And there is ways of doing that. Actually, the way to do that, one way of doing that is, for instance, there are these materials like transition metal oxides that have huge changes of the resistivity with all kinds of stimuli, magnetic fields or with light or with all kinds of things. So you can change the barrier height, so you can make tunable tunneling. And actually, this was explored in the superconducting case. I don't think it's been explored in the magnetic. Harry Soule actually and I have been talking about this. Harry came up with this idea of doing something called the spin drag. This has nothing to do with the ladies that are in San Francisco. This has to do with the fact that if you attach an electrode in one of the layers and you put a current in the other layer, you may have a spin polarized drag. The spins may drag the spins on one layer, may drag the spins on the other layer. This actually was observed in semiconductor layers. In semiconductor layers, there has been phonon drag been observed, or Coulomb drag. Both of these have been observed in semiconductor, but not with spin. So this is another possibility. There's magnetic proximity across the junction, and Casey Miller, that's sitting there, right there, he is slating over this for a few months now. Basically, that it is based on the theory that Bouchard came up with, is that if you have a tunnel junction and put two magnetic electrodes and you put a current through something that's below these two magnetic electrodes, although the current doesn't go through the magnetic electrodes, the magnetic proximity to this current in a normal metal gives rise to a spin polarized current, a spin polarized signature. So if the two electrodes are pointing like this versus the two electrodes pointing like this gives rise to a spin polarized current, and maybe gives rise to a device. There's a theory by Lou Schaub in which we are trying to look if there's any way to explore that one. And here's another one. There is Corneliu Kolesniuk and Bert Fuggerberg that are doing this one. Now this one is a real good one, because I went to the March meeting. We started working on these organic materials in my new lab, and I went. The one thing at the March meeting that there was a lot of excitement was about these organic things. You put an organic, instead of putting aluminum oxide, you put an organic material in the barrier. The whole thing that I told you now, it's repeated all over again in that field. You sit there, I sit there, and the little hair that I have, I try to pull it off, because all these people are claiming claims about tunneling and this and that without having any evidence for it. So I know what this is great, because I can go back, pull out the briefcase again, open it. I don't even have to think about it. As I say, as somebody said, with half of my brain time behind my back, I can do this thing all over again. And so I'm going to repeat this whole story all over again for this organic tunneling. Because 90% of what was going on there is nonsense. Because they don't know if it's tunneling. They just think that they put down some organic crap, and that's tunneling. That's it. Okay? And so if you want to know about the publications, there is a list there, but it won't bore you with reading you everything there. Thank you.
Questions? So, what do you think about the prospect of combining that organic tunneling stuff with the tuning, like with these signing?
That's a lot of question, of course, because when you think that I actually am sold on that one. The problem is, you see that the one way of tuning things at the barrier is with light, and so you have to get the light in there into the middle of the junction. But there's another way of tuning the thing is with magnetic field. And so I think that's a very good prospect, actually. So I think that, we are doing basic research, and I couldn't care less if this is useful for anything. So as far as I'm concerned, if we can do some interesting effect, and you can find some interesting effect, then that's good enough for me. So I think the prospects are actually quite good. So, yeah.
When you have a pinhole and it's actually short, why don't you see a little bit of ballistic?
I always ask the half question. Okay. Well, I mean, I don't know. Okay, so the simple answer is I don't know. Okay. The more complicated answer is the following: there could be many reasons why you don't see it. One reason why you maybe not see it is because when you have a short, So there's a lot of scattering there, so it's not ballistic, first of all. But there could be another reason, is that the only way the ballistic magnetoresistance works is if you have an infinitely sharp domain wall there, so that the moments here point this way. Okay. This tells me to shut up. So the moments here point this way, the moments on the other side of the barrier point that way. That's how these guys that invented this whole ballistic magnetoresistance thought about it. Now, I have a doubt about this, and you clear it up for me. If I take let's say a magnetic material looks like this, has more moments pointing that way. They never point that way because either you start pointing, near the surface, and here they point near the surface. And once I put them in contact, will the magnetic moments continue pointing the way they pointed when they were separate? I doubt it. Of course, I have no evidence. Neither do they. But I have no evidence, and I would believe that if you put them in contact like this, the magnetic fields will be distorted, the domain wall will become smooth enough, and it will become adiabatic. This electron is going to come along, and instead of seeing a sharp, an infinitely sharp magnetic domain wall, it will see something very smooth, and it's going to turn around, like this, very smooth.
We talked about this before, if you had a really high trillion isotopy.
Listen, Maribel, listen to this, because what he said, I haven't told you this, but he told me this already.
If you had a really strong isotopy, you would have a very sharp domain wall, and maybe.
So maybe it's worthwhile. So in fact,
maybe not.
Well, maybe not, right. But in fact, most of people, what they try to do is they try to do it in the opposite limit. They try to do it with permalloy, which has exactly the opposite. Okay, so
most of them can be permalloy, but at least the other one.
Yeah, but it's not, because I mean, to make this contact, okay? And I mean, as of today, I know of an experiment where people have, and there's all kind of crazy things. Now, I can tell you this, that the ballistic magnetoresistance, I hear rumors to the fact that work, BMR, has been able to collect $10 million of venture capital. So, talk about me being stupid. I mean, here I'm criticizing this. Somebody got $10 million.
So ballistic magnetoresistance does work.
It does work. It works very well. At the tune of $10 million. Got it, yeah.
Well, do you have some estimate of the size of the pinholes in the intentionally shorted junctions? Because I mean, I think of typically when you short something like that, it's a pretty gross, shorted. It's a big feature, whereas the BMR I was under the impression was tiny contact areas.
Okay, so let me tell you this. Actually, I also the short answer to your question, I don't know. But the longer answer, there is a longer answer to this one. The longer answer is this. Well, there is a simple answer. The simple answer is you ask Igor, because he's talked about this more than I did. So he can tell you something. But I'll tell you about the ballistic magnetoresistance. I thought about that a lot. The way the ballistic magnetoresistance originally was done is taking two humongous structures and bring them together. So you're talking about one, like a building, and bring it together with a point like this. Okay? And so they were millimeter sized, and they were presumably, they had no evidence for this, there was nowhere any evidence for this. Presumably there was a one atom contact there.
That's not, I mean, they saw quantization in the
No. In the original data, the problem with this field, if you come to my talk tomorrow, I'll talk about this one because that's pathological science. Exactly. What happens is that in the original data, in a few series of papers, like 5 or 6 of them, they showed what the resistance of this ballistic magnetoresistance is, and the effect was there. When this thing came under very heavy attack, it came under the shock and awe, as Bush would say, okay? Then they started backing off, and then they started inventing new things, but like quantized things. But this has been observed before without quantized things, okay? And the resistances were comparable. Now, let me assume that original work is all wrong, but the new work is correct. If you look at the quantized thing also, you have to ask the question. You have to look at the data, not at the steps that they draw into the data. If you look at the data, I venture to make a bet that there is more steps in between quantized than there is steps on the quantized. You see, it's pathological sense. If you draw in steps into a data, your eye somehow gets drawn to those steps. And then you tend to believe it. So I don't believe that either. And the third thing is, very good, the last magnetism, if you know.
Yeah.
Well, did you see this thing that Egerhoff was saying, that if you